would take the bulk of their education. Can't do that.
HHS Secretary Sullivan has refused comment on the petition, but in a memo dated a week ago and made available by Public Citizen, Surgeon General C. Everett Koop encouraged Sullivan to, quote, espouse this cause of nicotine addiction as the most important preventable cause of premature death and disability facing the nation. Carol Cook, CNN, Washington.
News from Medicine is brought to you by Bristol-Myers Company, makers of Contrex multi-symptom cold reliever. For a cold with stuffy nose, sneezing, aches, and coughs, all you need is Contrex. That's all, nothing else. For more medical news, watch CNN Saturday and Sunday for Health Week.
For miserable cold, what can you give me besides sympathy?
You could take a dose of Sudafed for your stuffy nose. Plus 1 chlortrimeton antihistamine for sneezing. Plus 2 regular Tylenol for aches and pains. Plus.
Are you kidding?
Plus 2 teaspoons of Benylin DM for that cough.
I'm not taking all that.
Well, you can relieve exactly the same symptoms just by taking Comtrex multi-symptom cold reliever.
It's that simple, then you take these. I'm taking 2 Comtrex.
Comtrex, all alone, it does it all.
When we come back, Steve Coast has a look at the nation's weather.
And the faces tell the whole story. We'll report on the thousands of people willing to risk everything to make it to America.
The good, the bad, and the ugly. From Dick's Outboard. Have a good time in a Challenger from Dick's Outboard with a 2-year package warranty. Get bad in a welded aluminum jet craft with a 180 horsepower Chevy V6. Get an ugly but reliable used boat. Or get a great package deal. A 16-foot Valco, a 40-horse Nissan, and an easy loader trailer, all for less than $100 a month. Dick's Outboard also services most major and non-major brands of outboards and carries a full line of accessories. That's Dick's Outboard on Finley Road near Two Rivers Park.
What's the #1 compact truck in America? Ford Ranger. A great truck. A really great value at your local Northwest Ford dealer. $9,086. Now, this is not a basic Ranger. This is a Ranger XLT with AM/FM stereo cassette, chrome step bumper, sliding rear window, tinted glass, two-tone paint, and interval wipers. The world's #1 compact truck. A real value at $9,086. Now, at your local Northwest Ford dealer.
This is CNN, a network of Turner Broadcasting System.
In the headlines this evening, Randall Adams is free in Texas after serving more than 12 years in prison for a murder he swears he did not commit. A film called The Thin Blue Line made the case for Adams' release. The Supreme Court says the government can use drug tests on some customs agents and railroad workers, and drug czar William Bennett may declare Washington America's first official drug danger zone. That means that federal money could be sent to fight local drug crimes.
One thing Bennett says that he won't do is call out the National Guard to patrol Washington's high-crime streets, but he may deny drug criminals the right to live in public housing. Local officials are considering a revamped curfew. CNN's Frederick Allen has this commentary on some other anti-drug ideas that are blurring political lines.
Washington's crime wave is provoking an atmosphere of desperation, and it's changing our political thinking. Things don't quite fit into those old cubby holes, liberal and conservative anymore, which is another way of saying politics makes strange bedfellows. Blood is flowing in the streets of the nation's capital. Crime scene tape has become the official municipal ribbon, and there's talk of a federal crackdown.
Because the situation here certainly merits it. Murder capital of the United States.
William Bennett, conservative poster boy during the Reagan administration, now drug director for President Bush, now advocating federal intervention in a local problem, an idea that used to be called liberal, but then so was gun control.
The man at the top of our ticket, George Bush, is a life member of the National Rifle Association, while Mr. Dukakis boasts that he is a card-carrying member of the American Civil Liberties Union.
The issues were simple in the campaign, not so now. With his temporary ban on importing assault rifles, Bush has the NRA upset, and he sounds a lot like, well...
There is no reason for these things to be around. They're designed to do only one thing, and that is kill other people.
Meanwhile, the ACLU was in federal court this week blocking a curfew on teenagers imposed by Washington City Council.
The police should be enforcing the criminal laws and targeting people who are doing wrong,
which is exactly the same point the NRA makes.
Get these violent drug dealers and crack people off the streets of America.
And it puts the ACLU at odds with a predominantly black, predominantly liberal Washington city government. Something's changing in Washington and other big cities. Blacks are becoming more conservative. They used to fear the police with reason. Law and order often meant police brutality. But today, there's a different threat. Black criminals who prey on black victims. Today, in the inner city, law and order is good politics. I'm Frederick Allen, CNN, Atlanta.
Heavy rains in the San Francisco Bay Area have made drought conditions there a little less severe. County officials who asked residents to cut down on their water consumption are lightening up a bit. Santa Clara County residents are being asked to use only 1/4 less water than they usually do. Officials say that small amount can add up to a big cutback in water usage. In Marin County, recent storms filled up 4 of the county's reservoirs. The rest of the lakes in the area are about 60% full right now.
A drought in Kansas is threatening the state's winter wheat crop. Many farmers are left with substandard crops and are facing major losses. CNN's Jonathan Towers with a report for us.
Time is running out for the winter wheat on Brad Fuller's 3,000-acre farm in north-central Kansas.
Probably a third, maybe, of the wheat is going to be a complete loss, and the wheat that will make crop it's impossible to say what it'll do.
Fuller's prediction is typical of many farmers in Kansas, where drought has lingered for more than a year now. Kansas grows 1/3 of the nation's hard red winter wheat, which is used to make bread. Winter wheat is planted in the fall, lies dormant over the winter, and is harvested in June. The prospects for a decent crop in Kansas this spring are grim. State officials say about 3/4 of the wheat crop in Kansas is now rated poor to very poor. To make matters worse, the National Weather Service is predicting less than normal rainfall over the next 30 days for most of the central U.S. By this point in the growing season, these wheat fields should be covered with plants 4 inches high.
I'd like to not see any ground at all. I'd like to see wheat up enough and lush enough that you weren't seeing any ground at all.
One of the worst fears of Kansas farmers was realized last week when crops throughout the state were damaged by a dust storm. Wind and dust damaged the crops by blowing away the topsoil and exposing the roots.
I've worked for the Soil Conservation Service for 25 years, and this is the first time I've seen wind erosion to this extent.
The drought in Kansas and only normal prospects at best in other wheat-growing states are driving wheat prices higher. The trend could hurt U.S. wheat exports in the future.
The higher prices are sending a signal to other producers to maybe increase their production next year. That, again, might reduce U.S. export market share.
Grain experts caution it's too early to assess the impact of the drought on U.S. consumers. Brad Fuller tries to be optimistic about the wheat. He says it's a hardy crop that often seems to have 9 lives. But the farmer concedes that much of his wheat has used up 8.5 of them. Jonathan Towers, CNN, Beloit, Kansas.
Well, we should check in for a short look ahead at how it might be in Kansas and the weather for the rest of the country.
Here's Steve Cook.
Patrick and Donna, it does not look good for the state of Kansas. Matter of fact, dry conditions are anticipated right through Sunday, and then about Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, a chance of showers or thunder showers moving in, but it's not real significant. And as you saw on the story there, the outlook for the next 30 days continues below